Welcome to Have You Read It, the channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Today we're diving into Paul Collier's Left Behind, a compelling exploration of why communities in prosperous nations and even entire countries fall behind, and how they can chart a path to recovery. Collier challenges conventional economic wisdom, offering fresh perspectives grounded in diverse fields like social psychology, moral philosophy, and political science. The book opens with the stark reality of left-behind places worldwide, from England's South Yorkshire to Colombia's Caribbean coast and Zambia's Copper Belt. These areas, once prosperous, now grapple with economic decline and social unrest. The central question burning in these communities, why us? And how do we catch up? Collier dismantles the traditional economic orthodoxy that relies on market forces to automatically correct economic imbalances. He argues that this economics of Dr. Pangloss, a belief in the inherent benevolence of the market, has failed and often exacerbated decline in left-behind places. The case of Britain's Treasury, with its rigid adherence to place-blind policies, exemplifies this failure. While the Treasury starved struggling regions of resources, it readily funded projects in London. This orthodoxy, according to Collier, is not just wrong, but harmful. He proposes that place-based policies, developed with local knowledge and agency, are essential for renewal. He draws inspiration from Ukraine's resistance against Russia, where President Zelensky's leadership and the empowerment of local militias transformed perceived disadvantages into strengths. This spiral staircase model of recovery, argues Collier, is applicable to economic revival as well. Collier introduces the syndrome of fragility, where an initial economic shock triggers a chain of negative consequences, including loss of investment and skilled workers, social fragmentation, and political instability. This syndrome challenges the traditional view that people should simply move away from declining areas. He highlights the perverse nature of market forces in these situations, where they amplify, rather than remedy, decline. The book discusses how social psychology offers new understandings of human behavior. Collier argues against the economic model of humans as selfish, rational actors. He draws on research showing that humans are pro-social and driven by a collective mind shaped by their communities. Left-behind places often suffer not just economic loss, but also a loss of meaning and social cohesion, leading to blame, self-blame, and a sense of learned helplessness. The examples of Wales and South Yorkshire illustrate this social fragmentation and decline in self-worth. Collier introduces the concept of contributive justice from Michael Sandel's work. He argues that every member of society has a duty to contribute, and that the powerful have a responsibility to ensure that the weak have the agency and resources to do so. He links the rise of populism and political polarization in the US and UK to a breakdown of contributive justice, where the successful have become contemptuous of the left behind. Drawing on recent research on radical uncertainty, Collier advocates for policies that prioritize robustness and resilience over short-term cost-cutting. He emphasizes the importance of learning from others, conducting policy experiments, and using abductive reasoning, working backward from observed successes, to find solutions. He contrasts Denmark's inclusive approach during the COVID-19 crisis with the individualistic response in the US and the flawed approach in Germany. Collier examines how devolved governance in Germany and the US has allowed some left-behind places to recover, contrasting this with the highly centralized system in the UK, which has hampered regional renewal. He points to Germany's success in revitalizing East Germany through substantial financial transfers and devolved decision-making as a model for other nations. The book explores the hidden despair in the world's poorest countries, which, despite globalization, are falling further behind. Collier challenges the World Bank's shift away from addressing global poverty, arguing that it is a critical issue that must remain at the forefront of international development efforts. He exposes the statistical biases that have created a misleading picture of convergence, while in reality, the poorest are diverging. The case of Barranquilla, Colombia, illustrates how local political rivalries and centralized indifference can exacerbate regional decline. Collier also uncovers hidden privilege in wealthy nations like the US and UK, where inequalities in life chances have created a new aristocracy. He criticizes the British education system for perpetuating these inequalities and highlights the stark contrast between the life chances of the most and least advantaged. He contrasts the UK's system with Estonia's highly successful and equitable education model. Leadership plays a pivotal role in Collier's narrative. He presents case studies of successful transformational leaders like Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, Seretse Khama in Botswana, Deng Xiaoping in China, and Paul Kagame in Rwanda. These leaders, despite operating in diverse contexts, share common traits. They built trust through personal sacrifice, promoted shared identity, and empowered competent teams to experiment and learn. He contrasts these successes with the failures of leaders in Tanzania, South Africa, and Russia, where misplaced priorities and unchecked power led to economic decline and social unrest. The book also celebrates grassroots movements that can revitalize communities. Collier explores the power of social capital, drawing on examples like the Rotary Club, post-war Germany, and the Mondragon Cooperative in Spain. These bottom-up movements, argues Collier, demonstrate the potential for ordinary people to drive transformative change. The success of Grameen Bank and BRAC in Bangladesh illustrates the power of community-based solutions to poverty. Collier emphasizes the importance of inclusive prosperity, arguing that high productivity alone is not sufficient. He champions Denmark as a model for combining productivity with social inclusion and criticizes the Anglo-American focus on financialization, which has exacerbated inequality. He contrasts Somaliland's inclusive state with Malawi's predatory one, highlighting the importance of building state capacity. Urbanization, a necessary step for economic development, is another key theme. Collier examines the challenges of rapid urbanization in developing countries and warns against adopting models like Los Angeles or New York, which are unsuitable for low-income contexts. He advocates for the sites and services approach, where local governments provide land and basic infrastructure for housing, and encourages local tax revenue generation to fund urban development, as demonstrated in Lagos, Nigeria. The book then explores the complex challenges of managing natural resource wealth, emphasizing the need for effective taxation, environmental protection, and local community involvement. He contrasts Norway's success in managing its oil wealth with the UK's failures, highlighting the importance of expertise and long-term planning. He warns of the pre-source curse, where inflated expectations and mismanagement can lead to economic instability and social unrest. Collier highlights the importance of building state capacity, particularly in taxation and security. He uses the example of Uganda's successful tax reforms to illustrate how dedicated teams and public education campaigns can increase tax revenue. He contrasts Rwanda's effective military with the failures in Afghanistan and Mali, emphasizing the importance of local ownership, discipline, and winning the trust of local communities. The book concludes by emphasizing the importance of morality in public policy, arguing that contributive justice provides a framework for building inclusive and prosperous societies. Collier criticizes the moral imperialism of wealthy nations and advocates for a more humble and supportive approach to international development. He encourages readers to recognize their own agency and contribute to building a more just and sustainable world. Thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.